On November 7, 2025, under the cover of darkness between Moscow and Beijing, two global superpowers held a covert call and sealed a $287 million cooperation deal that, in reality, was a pact of destruction. But their secret didn't stay hidden for long. A classified AI surveillance system, operating deep inside Kyiv, intercepted the transmission, exposing the truth. Nuclear microchips, mobile uranium reactors, and a hypersonic missile launch system capable of wiping out a NATO city of 3 million people in just 4 seconds. The code name for this operation was Project Thundip, a joint venture between China's People's Liberation Army, PLA, and Russia's Ministry of Defense. Under this project, 5 Shanxi Y-20 military transport aircraft were dispatched, each loaded with 66 tons of top-secret cargo bound for Chekhovsky Air Base, just outside Moscow. Each plane carried a $57.4 million payload. Escorted by 12 armed PLO technicians, 60 personnel in total. Within moments of the leak, Operation Iron Mist was activated. From Kharkov Air Base, 12 MiG-29 fighter jets roared into the night sky, joined by 28 FPV attack drones, their mission clear to cripple Russia's air defense network and intercept the Thundip transfer before it could reach completion. What the AI intercept revealed shocked Ukraine's analysts: 34,000 micronuclear chips, 280 quantum positioning sensors, 8 mobile uranium reactors, and 5 hypersonic propulsion systems, all components of a potential doomsday weapon. Their destination, Chekhovsky Air Base in Moscow, Oblast, is one of Russia's most heavily guarded military hubs, protected by 3 concentric S-400 defense rings and entirely hidden from civilian radar. While the world slept, 2 nations quietly plotted a technological apocalypse. And yet, in the silence of Kyiv's digital command center, one AI system heard everything. The file it captured, a single-wave recording, became the most classified piece of data in Ukraine's possession. Now, the clock is ticking. The 5 transport planes are in the air. Their estimated arrival, 10:30 a.m. Kyiv time. The following day. The question remains, can Ukraine's joint force stop Project Thundip before it's too late? Or will Russia's billion-dollar defense shield turn their desperate counterstrike into ashes?
10:32 a.m. Kyiv time, November 8, 2025. The Ukrainian operations room sat in stunned silence. On the central screen, a live satellite feed tracked 5 Shirin Y-20 transports cruising at 31,000 feet, almost equals 9,460 m, following an air corridor that kept them within 14 miles, almost equals 22 km, of known NATO radar gaps. The 5 aircraft touched down at Chekhovsky Air Base exactly on schedule. Ground crews stood ready to offload 330 tons of classified components while the entire landing was recorded. President Vladimir Zelensky convened his senior commanders and issued a single, stark order: intercept, neutralize, leave no trace. The mission, codenamed Operation Iron Fog, had to be completed inside a razor-thin 27-minute window, the time between the Chinese transports entering Russian airspace and the cargo being unloaded. Encrypted orders cascaded through command channels. 12 MiG-29s from Kharkiv would launch fully refueled and armed, each bearing 4 beyond visual range R-77 missiles, high-speed precision weapons rated with devastating accuracy. The first wave would include 28 FPV strike drones, not intended to destroy outright but to blind and degrade the Russian air defense network. This was more than a tactical raid, it was existential. If those components reached Russian assembly sites, the battlefield would shift from Kyiv to Warsaw, Berlin, even across the Atlantic. Ukraine had roughly 1 hour before Moscow's response could turn the skies into chaos. Kyiv chose to act. Could Russia's half-trillion-dollar defense grid be blinded by a strike designed to remove its eyes, or would the attack simply fall back against an impenetrable shield? 10:42 a.m. Moscow time. Western Russian airspace seemed calm. At Chekhovsky, ground crews prepared for unloading, unaware that 12 MiG-29s were already climbing into combat formation at 24,000 foot, while 28 carbon fiber FPV kamikaze drones skimmed treetop level, just 60 m above the ground, a signature nearly invisible to many radars. Russia believed the base secure, defended by 2 S-400 Triumph batteries and 2 Buk M2 groups, defensive layers valued in the billions and thought to cover a 65 kilometers radius. That confidence lasted exactly 32 seconds. At 10:43 a.m., Operation Iron Mist was declared. The low-flying FPV swarm breached the radar horizon, hugging terrain like a flock of birds, but their echoes registered only one thing on Russian screens: threat. Operators spotted the anomaly. Alarm sirens blared, and red warning lights flashed across every console. 19 seconds later, a Level 4 breach was declared. Launch authorization was immediately given, and 2 S-400 batteries along with 2 Buk M2 launchers on the northern and eastern rings received the order. Within 12 seconds, 15 surface-to-air missiles streaked skyward at Mach 3.2, hunting drones worth barely $3,000 each. One by one, the drones were obliterated. Telemetry later confirmed roughly 20 destroyed. But 8 slipped through the chaotic defense, weaving between hangars and fuel trucks, drawing fire and scrambling tracking systems before self-destructing within 70 meters of the runway. For a brief moment, Russian commanders exhaled. The immediate threat seemed neutralized. But they had walked straight into a trap. What their radars couldn't detect were 12 MiG-29s circling high above, hidden behind the drone swarm. At Mach 1.6, the fighters began their deadly dive. No warning, no second wave. The target, the runway and cargo zone, carrying 330 tons of classified weapon components including micro-uranium reactors, quantum detonators, hypersonic propulsion systems, and AI flight control chips. From 36,000 feet, almost equals 11,900 m, the MiGs nosed over in perfect unison. Russia's air defense network was still reconfiguring after the drone incursion. Controllers chased echoes, unable to separate debris from real threats. Seconds later, the MiGs unleashed 48 R-77M missiles, each armed with 22 kg fragmentation warheads capable of piercing armor. Seconds later, the MiGs unleashed 48 R-77M missiles, each armed warheads capable of red fuselages and reinforced bunkers. At 10:45 a.m., the first missile struck Y-20 Bravo, detonating a fireball that sent titanium and uranium fragments scattering across the tarmac. Seconds later, a second missile hit Y-20 Delta mid-descent, producing a mid-air detonation visible for 12 kilometers. Russian radar screens at Kyiv were jammed by Ukrainian interference emitting 120 dB, overloading analog frequencies within a 19 kilometers radius, effectively blinding the billion-dollar defense grid for 97 seconds. By 10:47 a.m., the second wave struck. 6 missiles tore through 700 meters of reinforced runway, leaving craters 12 m wide and 4 m deep, while 4 more slammed into the eastern hangars, reducing key infrastructure to rubble. In less than 3 minutes, what was thought secure had already begun to collapse. The cargo control facility and ammunition depot erupted in flames. Eyewitnesses later confirmed 5 PLA officers killed, 12 wounded, and 24 Russian personnel missing, buried beneath collapsing logistics warehouses. By 10:49 a.m., Chkalovsky Air Base, once Russia's most secure military logistics hub, had descended into utter chaos. 5 aircraft, 3 radar towers, 2 command shelters, and $420 million in infrastructure had been obliterated. A 42,000-liter fuel reservoir detonated shortly after, sending a smoke column 900 m high, visible from central Moscow. Yet astonishingly, not a single MiG-29 was lost. Every Ukrainian pilot returned safely, their flight paths masked by residual jamming from the UAV decoys. Within 17 minutes, all 12 fighters had crossed back into friendly airspace. In 6 minutes and 41 seconds, Ukraine inflicted over $700 million in direct damage, annihilating a weapons deal that could have shifted the global balance of power. This was more than an airstrike, it was a statement. No fortress, no alliance, no secret lay beyond Ukraine's reach. By 11:30 a.m. Moscow time, the flames still raged over Chkalovsky. A base once protected by $2.4 billion in air defense systems had become a cratered wasteland. Satellite images captured minutes later showed 5 destroyed Y-20 transports scattered across 1.2 kilometers, still glowing red at 1,300 degrees Celsius, while a black smoke plume climbed 900 m, drifting toward Moscow's outskirts, visible even from Red Square. Within 23 minutes of the strike, all Ukrainian MiGs were back in secure airspace. No losses, no injuries. The damage was catastrophic. $120 million in aircraft and equipment destroyed, 17 confirmed casualties, including 5 elite PLA officers. An airbase once considered impenetrable was now a scorched shell. For China, the loss was even more severe. A covert weapons program exposed, its most classified shipment annihilated, and elite personnel killed on foreign soil with no official explanation. By 2 p.m. Moscow time, both Moscow and Beijing remained silent. No press statements, no retaliation, no acknowledgement. The world, however, had already seen the devastation. Satellite images leaked to Western media revealed burned-out airframes, gaping craters, and smoldering radar masts. The silence was not strategy, it was shock. In Kyiv, President Vladimir Zelensky convened with senior generals. Their message was clear: silence and shock. We will not wait to be erased. We will strike first if our survival is at stake. This was more than a statement, it was a doctrine. The operation wasn't just a military victory, it was a psychological offensive, a stark warning to the world that the China-Russia weapons corridor had been penetrated by a smaller nation unwilling to be cornered. NATO analysts quickly classified the raid as a preemptive disarmament operation, the first known successful interception of a next-generation weapons alliance in transit. The rules of modern warfare had shifted once again. Behind the locked doors of Beijing and Moscow, an unspoken question lingered: if Ukraine could pull this off alone, what might happen when NATO joined the fight? From that silence, the world understood the war had entered a new phase, fought not with numbers, but with fear. By midnight, smoke over Chkalovsky airbase was still visible to satellites orbiting 500 kilometers above Earth. A fortress once built of steel and secrecy had been reduced to a black crater spanning 1.2 kilometers, faintly glowing in infrared scans. Fire crews battled the inferno for hours, but nothing could be saved. The 5 Shaanxi Y-20 transports, their classified cargo, and over $700 million in military infrastructure were gone. Moscow was silent. Beijing was silent. No press conferences, no statements, not even denials. Within 48 hours, intelligence agencies worldwide confirmed the impossible. Ukraine had executed a deep strike operation over 800 kilometers inside Russian airspace, bypassing 3 layers of S-400 defense systems and evading 27 radar arrays, without losing a single aircraft. The aftermath was catastrophic. Behind closed doors, Russia suspended all joint weapons research with China, while Beijing quietly recalled its remaining technicians from Moscow. Project Thunderstep, which promised a new balance of terror, was dead before it had begun. In a small operations room in Kyiv, blue monitors casting eerie light on tense faces. Commanders watched the satellite footage in silence. The proof was undeniable: a smaller nation, armed with intelligence and precision, had outmaneuvered 2 global superpowers. When the flames finally faded, what remained was not just wreckage, but revelation. The strike on Chkalovsky had redrawn the boundaries of modern warfare, proving that information, not sheer size, now dictated power. As dawn broke over Eastern Europe, one message rang louder than any explosion: Ukraine had not only survived, it had rewritten the rules of war. If you found this analysis insightful and want more in-depth breakdowns like this, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on the next unfolding conflict.